Hi, welcome to a new episode of Just a Little Girl. And it's been a while that I started with this phrase when I start the episode, but someday I'd like to. So today, as the title says, I wanted to say to everybody that I love and everyone who listens to the podcast to reassure that it's completely okay to be unsure and definitely okay to be unhappy. So the thing is, as a person who is very vulnerable about unhappiness and unsureness when it comes to life, I started to kind of understand myself and validate myself that I'm a person who's so afraid of being unhappy and so afraid of being unsure about life. And the thing is, being unsure and unhappy in life, it's very, very usual and very, very, most human thing ever, isn't it? And I think we're living in a world that it doesn't really give us spare time and spare space to be unhappy and unsure, because, come on, I am also a big fan of self-development content, like YouTube videos, podcasts, books, and I'm sure all of them gave me a motivation and validation for me to move forward, get rid of and get alleviate about the things that I'm very afraid of and stop me from moving forward. And that gave me a motivation and, again, validation for me to move forward and actually being able to approach to the things that I wanted to achieve, right? I don't blame that. But the thing is, I think we're living in a world where, like I said before, doesn't give a space for people to be unsure and unhappy, because we're living in a world where it's so flooded with the content of let's try our best and being happy is our ultimate goal, and being unsure is toxic, and you should definitely know what you want to do. And sometimes it's a luxury to be lost. Yeah, it really is. The modern days doesn't give us our spare time and spare mind to be lost, basically. And maybe because we're in a very highly materialistic place where basically money and resources and what else, anything material and anything capitalism kind of led us to be blind about giving us space to be unsure and unhappy. And like I said, I'm a big fan of self-development content, and sometimes, even though I love those kind of content, it's one of my favorite way to start a morning, by listening to a self-development podcast about, developing my ability or developing my developing my concentration span, the focus span, sorry. But sometimes there is a morning that I just feel so unsure, unhappy about my life overall. Sometimes it doesn't really have a specific reason. It just happens. Maybe it's the hormones, I guess, but there is definitely some days that you just kind of woke up in the morning feeling like shit and really don't want to move even a tiny bit. And those kind of days give you a bad energy that kind of makes you feel very unhappy and unsure about what's going to happen in my life, and you don't even know what you're going to have a lunch for today. But modern days kind of pushes you to be very, very sure about your destiny, very sure about your career, very sure about your family plan, and very happy about your career, and very happy about, your house and your car. And sometimes I just want to shout out in the world saying, just give us a space. Yeah, just give us a space. And I really think people needs to feel a bit more comfortable and be able to just, be comfortable. And what else? And be able to say that you're unsure and unhappy at the moment easier than right now, because it is almost a taboo to say you're unhappy and unsure about your life in our modern days content life. Everybody is kind of trying to show off how sure they are, how happy they are about their life, and kind of showing off their success and how they overcame that unsureness and how they overcame that unhappiness. But like I said, I think 99% of people needs to be heard of the things like it's completely okay to be unsure and unhappy. And yes, sometimes you need that kind of very strong motivation, quotes from famous people, rich people, and intelligent people, and it does help me, of course, it definitely does. But I think at the end, what everybody wants to hear from their loved ones or from the people they trust, they just want to get a reassurance about the fact that it's completely okay, whether you're poor, whether you're unsure, whether you're unhappy. And I think it's kind of a lesson that I learned from my mom. She used to be the person who always said it's completely okay, whether I fail, whether I fall down, whether I don't know, spoiled the bread that I really, really was like so motivated to bake, but ultimately failed to bake. Like every failure and every unsureness, every unhappiness, she just said one word: it's okay, you'll be fine. And like I said, I think it's ultimately what people wants to hear, isn't it? To be heard and to be told from their loved ones that it's completely okay, even though you're not pretty. And I heard a wonderful quote from a YouTube short, and it was a little baby in the YouTube short saying, "It's not perfect, but I think it's great." And I think it's kind of in the same context of what I'm saying right now. What you're having right now and what you're dealing with right now is not perfect. Who you are is not perfect, of course, but it's great. I think it's great. I think that little boy taught me a lesson about how I'm gonna view the world. I'm gonna approach the things I feel like it's so hard to kind of it's so hard to grapple with the things that it's so unpredictable, and that unpredictability kind of leads us to be very unsure, which ultimately means that we can't control it, and it makes us hopeless, right? And at the end, it kind of makes us unhappy and very uncontent about what we are dealing with and what we have encountered. So yeah, like I said, we live in a world that it doesn't give us spare time and space to think, to kind of not swallow, but actually digest a feeling that you're unsure and happy. Because still, those emotions and those kind of realizations sucks. I'm not saying they're beautiful, but still, I do believe it is valid, and it should be related, and you should get some reassurance and a support from your loved ones about how you're feeling right now. And to be honest, I feel like modern days we're so obsessed with the concept of being happy, and sometimes I feel like that concept of happiness is almost a myth, that sometimes it sounds like a fairy tale, and everybody knows in our modern days, everybody know who reached their adulthood knows that fairy tale is a fairy tale. It's completely false. Like, living happily ever after doesn't exist without a huge like for example, there's a Cinderella, and both Prince and Cinderella it says they're going to be happily ever after, but still the marriage, even if you get married, it's another start, and you have to kind of work hard for each other to maintain that marriage. And after you turned up, like, since adulthood, you kind of realize that, like, maintaining the healthy relationship and maintaining the healthy marriage is almost like having the perfectly shaped abs for rest of your life, which means it really does require a huge amount of work and huge amount of fight and huge amount of trust for each other. And so yeah, because happily doesn't exist, it just means they're gonna strive forever until you die to sustain a healthy marriage. Like, if you're gonna have kids, then it's gonna be tougher, but still, all that kind of strives, all that kind of struggles, all that kind of ups and downs, I believe that if you add all of them and think it as one single big part, then it should be called happiness, I believe. And it should, like love, people think having no fights, having no dramas, having no, I don't know, ups and downs in their life, and so many struggles, so many arguments aren't love. But I believe true love is made from countless of arguments, countless of fights, and countless of ups and downs, countless of forgiving and being an ass and forgiving, alternating, right? But at the end, you guys would choose each other because they love each other. And I believe those kind of elements becomes love. Those horrible parts sometimes makes things a bit hard, but still, if you add everything, then I believe those elements, combine it together, will be love, what people call love. And I think it's same with happiness, right? Same with happiness. Like, people think striving and failing and, I don't know, like breaking up with the love that you used to think is like your forever love, and failing the things that you've been dreaming to achieve, and what else, all the shit shows that happens in your life. But at the end, if you combine everything, and if you combine all the elements that you think it's nice and bad at the same time, if you combine all of them, I believe you ultimately can be called as happiness. And people, especially when it comes to happiness, I believe people can be very, 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 very one-dimensional, can definitely have a very one-dimensional thoughts about the happiness. Like, happiness should be like unicorns and rainbows, but I believe true happiness comes from a combination of ups and downs and failures and striving for the thing that you love and failing at the same time. Those kind of alternates, and those kind of ups and downs kind of makes, and if you combine all the elements, that kind of ultimately be what we call happiness. And so eventually what I want to say is, what you feel unhappy, what you feel unsure, can be a great way, I don't know, can be one of the beautiful elements for you to be unsure, to be sure and happy at the end. And again, like I said at the beginning, it's completely okay to be unhappy and unsure. And like I said from the last episode, I just wanted to say to everybody that if you need help, just say that you're not okay. And if anybody heard people from the people that you love or people you just don't really know asked for help and reached out, then I want you to just say, all the bad stuff they're talking, just listen to them. Sometimes people just forgot the fact that listening is the best therapy. And I just want to emphasize, if you became like a personal therapist of the loved one, or somebody reached out to you to kind of talk about what they've been going through and how they're unsure and unhappy. I just want you to tell to them that it's completely okay to be happy and unsure. And it's fine. It's not in the world. Everybody is unhappy and unsure sometimes. And true happiness and true that sureness comes from those kind of countless unsureness and countless unhappiness. So it shouldn't be neglected, of course. It never should be neglected. It should be digested generally. It shouldn't be swallowed. It should be digested slowly, generally, and it's completely valid. And people who's listening and who's listening from the loved one should be able to listen and just say that you're completely fine. It's such a very human thing. And sometimes the concept of happiness is a myth, and since it's a myth, we should more be generous with the people who's very unsure and unhappy with their life at the moment, and give them a chance and spare time and spare space for them to be happy and sure someday in life. And it's completely okay to be happy, like sporadically, not all the time, right? Because sometimes hormones makes our minds go crazy. There's definitely gonna be a lot of emotional turmoil when you go through life, but I believe just being happy sporadically doesn't mean a lot even, It sounds a bit weird, but I think people would know what I mean. So yeah, I just want to say that loud. It's completely okay to be unsure and happy. And if you're going through that kind of era, then I just want to emphasize that. And yeah, this is what I wanted to tell to my listeners of today's podcast, of this week's podcast. And I hope you guys had a wonderful week. And let's see each other again this weekend then. Thank you. Bye-bye.